This is Tom Duty, middle-aged American, living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty in a Google search for my site. The topic of this is really governance. I'm going to touch on social issues, liberal democracy, conservatism, conservatism and liberalism, capitalism, and the gap between wealthy and poor. So in this country, especially in my visit to Robben Island is where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned as he was a political prisoner. So I want to kind of do a better introduction. So in other words, I'm going to talk about a few of the pieces of information that go into this video. But this man spoke in Davos this week. He seems to have a Scandinavian name. I don't know anything about him other than what he said in this viral video. But Rutger Bergman, he's a historian. So listeners, if you do anything else, I beg, please, I'm begging, I'll do anything. Por favor, Google Rutger Bergman and listen to what he said in Davos this week. Now, this is being recorded in February of 2019. Rutger Bergman, in a viral video, he captures what I want to say in this video, only better, certainly more concise. But I'm going to talk more broadly involving my experience this week. So, Robben Island, the most important lesson that the people of Robben Island want you to know, and the people are the former prisoners. Nelson Mandela, in his words, did this better than any of them, did them as well as any of them, is that this was not accomplished by him. This was the regime of apartheid, was not put down by him, was not put down by the ANC, who he was the leader of, and not put down by any other single group. It was the total effort of these people. And these leaders, even though they've diverged in strategy and thinking and politics and religion, they are unified in this idea that even though this other group might have been having a different message, and in the U.S., Martin Luther King and Malcolm X would be a good example, their message diverted, but their goals were the same. I'm not sure I can say that, but their goals were more similar than their methods. These people had the same disparity, but their purpose was very much unified, bring down apartheid. And so anyways, that was a trigger to ushering in this very liberal democracy on a continent that is the opposite of liberal. And I don't even want to call it conservative. I mean, there are countries where female genital mutilation is practiced and really not a political effort to stop it. There's a very recent leader of a country, just one country north of here. It shares a border with this country. The man was Robert Mugabe and his very famous villainous wife, Gucci Grace. These two were ousted. So they're no longer politically relevant. However, they were very recently relevant, and I believe they're both still alive. And Mugabe said if a gay person came into this country, he would kill them. He would see that they were killed. And meanwhile, legal gay and lesbian marriage, and there is an incredible openness of a liberal democracy that got ushered in here. And it really is started and very much credited not only to the revolutionary leadership that was imprisoned on Robben Island, but in addition to that, the preparedness that these men had to govern is extraordinary. They wrote a constitution because they were ready to write a constitution. So in almost an ironic way, the regime of apartheid put these leaders of the revolution on an island together, allowed them to interact freely, didn't deliberately execute any of them, although only some of them were killed in violence, but none of them were executed in a state execution. And what the leaders of apartheid did to favor the revolution is to take the leaders and basically create, and I'm going to use the word university, but certainly it wasn't their intent. And when you go to it, it was very much a prison and not a university, but some of the intellectual development of what our government will look like if we bring down apartheid. That intellectual advancement happened on Robben Island. Extraordinary experience, and really triggered my thinking into politics and economy and what is liberalism and what is conservatism. So then I started thinking about my own country, the U.S., and how we package, and we have this Democrats, Republicans, liberal and conservative. And I'm just going to suggest that the reduce taxes that Trump has preached about and gotten support from Republicans isn't necessarily a message of Republicans. I will say that lower income Republicans who believe lower taxes are a benefit have been duped into believing this is true. Now, I am not saying that the other things that Trump is preaching, that they've been duped into those. Trump is clearly preaching some things that are appealing, and appealing for good reason. He has adopted a message to appeal to his base, and then he snuck in these economic messages that appeal to him and to corporations and to the wealthiest people of the country. I believe that message of taxes is better carried by this man. I'm going to show his name again, Rutger Bergman. Rutger Bergman. I think this is a more appealing message for the masses. And Trump has duped the masses into believing that lower taxes are in the best interest of everyone, and they're really not. And economies of the world have proved it. So anyways, moving on to Davos and setting the stage for Rutger Bergman. So first of all, continue with my experience. I am in Bachoven. Bachoven is a neighborhood for the wealthy. I'm staying here as an Airbnb guest, and it is a residence of the wealthy. And people have literally, they have their own security. It's a private police force. It's called ADT. ADT is not just an alarm system. ADT is an alarm system plus a private police force. So when Hannah and I checked in here and we set off an alarm, in addition to setting off the alarm accidentally, we were able to get it to silence, but we didn't realize that we had left the gate open, the rolling gate, because we didn't use the rolling gate, but I had accidentally pushed the button. So now the gate's open. The alarm had gone off. The owners didn't answer the phone quickly enough, and we ended up, without knowing it, until he showed up at our back door, had summoned an armed officer wearing a bullet vest, and I would have guessed he was a member of the military of South Africa, and he wasn't. He's private police force. So what I'm trying to say is, here I am in a home of a wealthy person, and this home is high security. This home has an outdoor fish pond, something you might find in a museum, and the art collection in the upper house is probably significant. It is a building of beauty, and people have built a museum. As I see it, there are personal museums in the tens of thousands around in the hills of South Africa, and it's more wealth than people should have. They have their own police force, they have their own art collections, they have their own fish ponds, and they are separating themselves from society in a way that is understandable if you're a celebrity or a powerful politician. But I think regular people should not be afforded such privileges of not so many people should be afforded these privileges. And so anyways, to switch to what Rutger Bergman said, he was at Davos, and by his account, 1,500, more than 1,000. He claims that 15,000 private jets. Now, Rutger Bergman is an academic and a historian. He probably went on commercial to come at Davos. He was a speaker in one of the conferences. He was one of 2 conferences that addressed this topics of taxes. And what Rutger Bergman said is that he finds it bewildering how rich people come in with these messages of how are we going to have a better world. You know, how many times can we invite Bono in to sing for this happier, unified world without addressing the issue of taxes? Because if we have clean water issues and we have refugee camps and we have many people living in poverty, how are we going to address this better? The conference is filled with people talking about these things, and no one's talking about taxes as a method to pay for them. Eliminating tax loopholes, crushing the offshore ability to hide money and not pay taxes on the income that it earns. We also call these tax havens, and they go by a lot of names. Some of them have been unearthed through whistleblowers recently, and some of these people have been prosecuted, but very, very few. And so Rutger Bergman said, it's bewildering. Here I am at a conference where these people have these messages and these goals, these social goals, and these social goals need to have money. And the money, we got to quit talking about philanthropy and talk about taxes. And because philanthropy is this option that the wealthy have to make a big name for themselves by giving money. But why don't we force more wealthy people to give an even share of money, and let's have a society that determines what that money is. So anyways, he said, I feel like I'm at a firefighting conference, and we're not allowed to talk about water. We're firefighters. We want to put out fires. We're not allowed to talk about water. So again, he said, Davos is bewildering. I feel like I'm at a firefighting conference, and we're not allowed to talk about water. So when I put his words together with my experience of this week, and I think about politics back home and how we got to have lower taxes, that helps everyone. That message has been attached to the Republicans, and the Republicans adopt it because that's the way our politics go. I, as a liberal, am asked to accept more liberal abortion, which I don't, but I certainly don't support a prohibition on abortion. I'm more in regulating abortion in some useful way. I hate the idea of abortion doctors who are doing illegal abortions that get killed in the name of people saving lives. So I have some problems with abortion being tagged to liberalism the way it is. That's just one example for me, but it is my notion, my suggestion, my message that above all in the U.S., this idea of the wealthy paying a very modest tax all the way up into the millions of dollars that they, on that second million that they earn, a higher tax should be paid than what they're paying. Let's have the first 100,000 that they pay, the first taxes they pay against the first 100,000. Let's tax that against everyone else like we do. But once you get up to your second million, once you're up to your 8th million, once you hit $1 billion, those higher incomes, that chunk of money that's in that range, that should be taxed at a higher rate. And that's the alarm of this building. So I'm going to end this. I'm going to end it without my typical closing. I was done. Ciao. The alarm stopped. Tom Duty, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty in a Google search from my site. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, good evening, or restful night's sleep. Ciao.